Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we're going to work on lesson 5.2, where lesson 1 was all about the coordinate plane and graphs. 5.2 is going to be about graphs as well, but this time incorporating real-world information, okay, and how they can represent that. So, like I said, in lesson 1, we used the coordinate plane, where we had an x-axis here from left to right, the horizontal axis, and then the y-axis was vertical up and down. Okay, so here you have the positive x values to the right, negative x values to the left, positive up for the y-axis, and down negative. All right, so a lot of times when we're talking in the real world, or these real world examples, a lot of times we deal with maybe only just one of these one of these quadrants. Okay, oftentimes what you'll see is we're going to deal just with the positives, both for the x and the y, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually have these go away. And we're kind of just zooming in. They're not technically gone permanently, but we're zooming in so we only have this first quadrant, okay? So we're going to go ahead and work with that on our example, which is right here. So notice once again, we have our x-axis here and our y-axis here. And I even have a table of values, all right? In this table, we have our x-axis is going to represent hours, so I'm going to actually write hours under here. And then our y-axis has to do with money made. So I'm going to write this down here. Okay, so I think you've done this in science class, just using different labels to represent your axes, now that we're actually using the coordinate plane to represent real things. So we're going to go ahead and plot some of these points. So let's talk about what happens first. So at 0 hours worked, we've made no money. Makes sense. After an hour of working, we've made $15. 2 hours of working, 30. 3 hours, 45. 4 hours, we're still at 45. And then at 5 hours, we're at 60. So let's go ahead. We're actually going to plot some of those. So I'm going to make some little marks. This will be 0, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3, 4, 5. And then here I'm going to count up by 15 since it counts by 15s. So 15, 30, 45, 60. We don't need to include units on our actual labels, or on our actual numbers. 45 and 60. All right, cool. So let's plot some of these points. So these right here are coordinate points. They are ordered pairs. So this would be like 0, 0. So we always move with our x first. So I'm going to go 0 on my x and 0 on my y, which is just right here. I'm going to do 115, so 1 for my x, and then up to 15 for my y. Same thing here, 230, so 2 on my x, 30 for y. 345, 3 for my x, 45 for y. 445. Notice that's still at 45. We'll talk about that in a second. And then 560. So 5 for x up to 60 for y. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and connect these actually, just so we can get a better picture for what our story is telling. All right, cool. So you'll notice in this chapter we're going to do two main different things. So in one, we're going to be given a graph already, and we're going to have to tell a story about what's happening, okay, based on our data and our labels. And then sometimes what we'll do is we'll be given the story or the data, and we're going to have to draw a graph that represents that. Okay, so let's take a look at this and try to tell the story of what's happening or what might be the cause of this. So it does make sense that as our hours are increasing, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, our money made seems to be increasing as well. And it seems like it's happening like we're making $15 every hour worked, right? But what's happening right here, right? Well, let's see. Our hour is increasing still from 3 to 4. Okay, so time is still going by. That makes sense. Time keeps on going. But the money we make was at 45, and it's still 45 here. So the money we make isn't changing. So what's happening for this hour that we're not making any more money? So one thing that could be suggested maybe is that after working for 3 hours, the person takes an hour-long break. Now in the real world, when an employee goes on break, they're still usually getting paid during that time. But we'll say for this example that they were working for 3 hours, making $15 an hour. And then for an hour, they took an hour-long break. And then they went back to work for another hour and made another $15, so getting up to $60 total. So again, the general picture you can see here is that as time is increasing, money is increasing as well. And there's that little moment where we see that the y-axis, like there's no increase there, but time is still going by So that is the idea here. So that's what we're going to be working on this chapter. The next video, we're going to go through the 2 pages to kind of take a look. But key things to look out for in these problems is look at this x-axis, look at that y-axis. Try to think about which one is increasing as you go up. Okay, that's going to be an important thing to look at.